Many of us would rather lose our jobs than suffer heartbreak. Or when we do get our hearts stomped on, we'd probably just want to forget all about it and climb into bed with a gallon of ice cream. But Susan Piver says that's the exact wrong approach to take. She's the author of Wisdom of a Broken Heart. Susan, I'd like to know what exactly we learn from the sadness of a broken heart.
Well, first of all, I would never say that getting into bed with a gallon of ice cream is a bad idea. So I just want to clarify that. We live in a world that tells us that any kind of negative feeling means that someone has really made a big mistake, and that's a big problem that we have to solve. However, when you're sad, when your heart is broken, you feel everything. You take everything in. You feel your own pain, certainly, but you also feel the pain of others and their joys. So you develop this ability actually to love more when your heart is broken than before. In a sense, the heart that is broken has been broken open.
While that may be good, is there ever a point that we need to worry when our grief is actually turning into full-blown depression?
Yes, one of the biggest difficulties with heartbreak, and this is a hallmark of heartbreak, is obsessive thought. That's what separates heartbreak from other kinds of grief. There's a sense that you cannot stop your mind from tormenting you with very painful thoughts. That is dangerous. That is difficult. It's extremely helpful to learn some kind of technique for modulating the activity of your mind. I certainly recommend meditation as the best possible solution, but there are other things like prayer or taking a walk or even just sitting and thinking of someone who does love you. Anything you can do to relax your mind will really help.
For those of us who may not be well versed in traditional meditation, what do you recommend when those thoughts start to come into your head, when you start to think, hey, I'm not a good person because my lover broke up with me, or I failed somehow in life? Or is there a way that people can actually challenge those thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are two approaches you can take when those difficult thoughts are plaguing you. One, and this is easier in a sense, is interrupt them. Just get up and do something else. I know it's easy for me to say and it's not so easy to do, but instead of lying on your couch with a gallon of ice cream thinking horrible thoughts, get up and take a walk. Call someone else who's having difficulty and try to think of them instead of yourself. Anything you can do to interrupt the thought is good, on one hand. On the other hand, sometimes it's good to allow those thoughts, to explore them, to let them just rush in like sort of a stream rushing by. And the more you can sort of feel your feelings without telling yourself a story about them, and that's what those thoughts are, the quicker they will metabolize into a more balanced state.
And we hope that would actually help us to get over our grief faster, or is there any way to speed the grief process, or do we just have to give it time?
You just have to give it time. And remember that it takes a lot of courage to be sad. A fantastic life is not one that is placidly happy. A fantastic life is one that is fully lived. And when you're grieving, more than when you're happy, you see what's important to you. You see what you love and who loves you. And you're, in a sense, standing right on the dot of the most important things of your life when you're grieving. So, of course, no one wants to feel that way, myself included. But instead of speeding it up by trying to push it away, if you allow it to teach you, it actually will resolve faster than any effort to fight it.
And one last bit of advice, which you talk about in the book, is how we should deal with our exes. Most of us just want to feel angry, don't want anything to do with that person ever again. But you have some different advice. What do you think is the best way?
Well, actually, there are a lot of things I recommend in the book to deal with your ex, because it is very tempting to go, you're a jerk, no, I'm a jerk, and sort of bounce back and forth between those 2 points of view for 3 years. But one thing I suggest is write the story of your relationship from the third person point of view, and do it over 3 writing sessions. Start with the beginning, write the story from the moment you met this person to the moment you knew you were in love, and write it from the time you were in love until the time you knew something was going wrong. And then write the story of the breakup, but from the third person. She said this, he did that. Because just taking that step back a little bit and looking at your circumstance as if you were describing someone else, may sound silly, but it helps you gain a very valuable perspective, and also to look at your story from the stance of someone who is okay instead of someone who is embroiled in agony.
which we hopefully all will be okay from our heartbreaks eventually.
You will.
Well, thank you for joining me, Susan. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.